Before working on any firearm, make sure the magazine is empty and removed. Also make sure the chamber is empty and the firearm is unloaded.
Okay, now that we have the disassembly complete and the firearm's completely torn down, we're going to reassemble, and it's essentially going from reverse. Everything's going in the way it came out. So first we're going to put the trigger in, line it up, let it drop in. Then we're going to put the mag catch back in. All right, once the mag catch is in, then remember you got to press about 3/4 of the way. Sometimes it's all the way, just depending on where that mag catch location is. Okay, we got that locked in. Okay, so the mag catch is working properly. All right, our next step is to install the sear and disconnector. Now, the disconnector is going to ride just like that. All right, and your sear sets right on just like that. Okay, so it's going to be right inside, just so. All right, so you're going to drop it in there, get it lined up in the hole for the disconnector, push up on it a little bit, pin, line it up, get it to go through your sear and disconnector. Now your sear pin's got a little notch in it. Make sure that notch is facing towards the rear, towards where the hammer pin and the thumb safety hole is. Okay, so once we got that in, our next step is to install the sear spring. Now sear spring's got a little hook on. Got to ensure that that left side of that sear spring, that left spring, is setting on top of the sear leg, not underneath it, not behind it. Okay, and how I confirm that it's like that is I put the mainspring housing on a little ways, look, see that it's setting on top. All right, make sure there's a little bit of clearance. Everything looks good. Then I'll put back in the hammer. Okay, hammer's all the way forward. Drop the strut down. Okay, next step is to install the grip safety. Okay, once I have the grip safety in there, I normally take the right side of the ambi and I put in the gun back in and hold. That holds my grip safety in while I'm reinstalling the mainspring and putting the mainspring housing pin back in. So I just make sure the strut's lined up in the center of the channel for the mainspring. Once I see that it is, I can reinstall my mainspring. Small punch. Once that's installed, then the next step is to cock the hammer back. All right, again, don't forget about your plunger spring assembly. Small plunger goes forward. It's the one that rests against the back of the slide stop. Push that in. I then can install the left side of the ambi. Okay, again, you're going to put the safeties. Got to put the safeties where they're halfway in between the safe mode and the fire mode. Once you got that, then you can press the plunger. Safeties will push in. You can take your screwdriver, tap on the corners, or a non-marring hammer, tap on it to make sure it's engaged properly. All right, now I don't check any of the fire controls until I get the slide all back together and on the frame, because I don't want to take a chance of that hammer falling forward and damaging the frame or the hammer or breaking a sear. Okay, so once we're done as much as we can on the frame, we'll get started on the reassembly of the slide. And to do the assembly of the slide, make sure your link is pushed forward. All right, now on the lubrication, you're going to make sure you put a little bit of lube in the locking lugs. Also on the rails, on the front, on the disconnector rail. And you don't really have to on the match model, but I kind of, I always put a little bit of lube just right here on the corner, right here in the front where the bushing sets. So once they got that, we can put the barrel all the way in, install the bushing. Again, it's tight, being a match gun, so that's a good thing. Okay, so I'll move remove the link back. put in our guide rod, reinstall our spring. All right, then now the spring plug. Now the plug, you gotta, make sure you're careful doing this, because we have had people lose these things to never be seen again. And then I get it started to where the barrel bushing's holding the spring plug down. I then rotate it, all right, and get her lined up to where it's all matched up the way it needs to be. Okay, next step is installing the extractor. All right, so put the extractor in, make sure it's setting properly where it's not clocking, and setting flush to the profile of the frame, or excuse me, the profile of the slide. You can see that, how it's nice and flush. Next step is to install the spring, the firing pin, and then the firing pin stop. And I take the firing pin and I press down with my fingers, just because you get more control and you can control it easier as opposed to using a screwdriver. All right, I then get it started with a firing pin stop. Then you can take your little tool that's got the right angle on the back, press down on your firing pin, and then put your firing pin stop all the way in. Okay, then you're going to take your link, make sure it's pushed forward, install the slide back onto the frame. Okay, then pull back in your slide stop. Now you have to pull your slide back a little bit to get the firing pin stop engaged. Once it's in there, then you can line back up to the half circle notch. There we go. Okay, everything's in how it should. All right, now I can check the fire controls and make sure everything's working properly. First thing I do is put safety on, press the trigger a few times, make sure it's not going to engage. All right, then I go ahead and take the thumb safeties off. I then don't put any pressure on the grip safety, and I press the trigger a few more times. Make sure that grip safety is holding the back of that trigger bow correctly. All right, now you can depress the grip safety, press the trigger, let the hammer fall. I then keep the trigger depressed, take my hand off the back of the grip safety, and then let up on the trigger, and make sure that grip safety comes off the back of that trigger bow and engages into the safe mode. All right, so it did that. Everything's correct. This gun's ready to fire. This is the disassembly and reassembly of our 1911 A1 match model. Thank you.